Hey, what up, YouTube? It's your boy Sean, aka Sean Knight 3000. What's going on with y'all out there in YouTube land? Anyway, taking a little bit of a lunch break. I've been running around since 7:15 this morning. I've done 10 deliveries in that time span. So it hasn't been a super busy day. That's usually reserved for a Friday night, Saturdays, and Sunday mornings. But, for a Tuesday, it's not bad. So, like I said, this cough is killing me. But if that's the only thing I have to deal with, because I didn't have a winter cold this year. I didn't have a winter cold in 2016, 17. So if I only have to deal with a little bit of a cough, I'll take it, It's just annoying, Anyway, I had some cough drops. I don't know how effective they are, but they're the Walgreens one. The ones the ones you get at Walgreens. You can get them in different flavors, lemon and stuff like that. They taste good, but I'm not exactly sure how effective they are. But like I say, right now, just taking a little bit of a break. I got up at 6 o'clock this morning. By the time I had showered, I obviously didn't shave this morning. Excuse me. Wow. That was a good one. By the time I had showered, got myself ready, got from my apartment over to the far south side, I guess you can say. It was about 7:14, and about 3 minutes after I turned on the app this morning, I got my first customers, or I got my first customer. It was a good ride. It was like 8 miles. Man, my hand itching like crazy. She was like 8 miles away from the restaurant. And when it's that far, trust me, it adds up and you get paid pretty well. The one thing you never want to do, though, is turn your nose up at something that might be only, a mile away from the restaurant. Because you're being paid as a driver no matter what. Whether I'm going 50 feet from the restaurant or I'm going 50 miles from the restaurant, I'm still getting paid. But the one thing I wanted to talk about, why is Uber taking away so many incentives? I don't know. Last year, you could make almost a decent living on just the incentives alone. For example, if you had a rental and you did 75 trips during that week, Uber basically paid for your rental. Took that away. Then they had the incentive where for, if you did, I think it was, 40 trips, you got $55 bonus. You were going to be out doing those things anyway. So it was just like, great, this is wonderful. Took that away. The surge. I don't know how the surge is in other cities. I really don't. I've only done Uber in one location, that's here in Chicago. The surge here is ridiculous. I mean, it's not even worth you going out anymore. You know, when the surge only goes, the highest it's been probably since November of last year, December, 1.7. It used to be 2, 3. I remember a night when it was snowing where it went up to 4. It went up to 4. And I was doing, and that was the one night I was real happy to be doing Uber Pool, because I had 3 people with me, and they were all paying four times the normal fare. That never would have happened. I never would have got 4 people just doing Uber X that night. So it was a good night to be doing pool. That was the one night pool backfired on them. Because when you're paying 4 times the normal rate, it doesn't matter if you're paying the pool prices. But snow was coming down hard. It was cold, windy. This is Chicago. You know how it can be. But now they got these boosts, these guaranteed boosts from in the morning from 7 to 9, or sometimes they extend it to 10. And then from 5 to 7, sometimes they extend it. Sometimes most times they don't. And they tell you, well, if the surge is more than the boost, you'll get the highest fare. I'm sorry. The incentives to stay on the Uber platform are diminishing. And I don't know if it's just a simple money grab by Uber, by the guys at the top. I don't know. Maybe they feel they got more than enough drivers. So if they lose X number of drivers in the next 2 or 3 years, they don't care. That's kind of like this company that I used to work for here. I'm not going to throw them under the bus. But they're in the medical transport business. And based in Chicago, they're the biggest game in town. So if you're familiar with the Chicagoland area and you're familiar with medical transportation companies, you know who I'm talking about. It's a revolving door for drivers over there. That's one of the reasons why they pay for drivers to come in. They will actually pay for you to get your CDL. Because once you get your CDL, you can drive for them. The problem is the turnover rate is so astronomical. I mean, it's rare that I don't think there's anybody at the company now that came in with me. And this was less than 2 years ago. That's an extremely high turnover rate. But they're hiring so many new drivers, they feel they can take the hit. So why should they be incentivized to give drivers anything? I mean, they'll wear you out with overtime. I mean, to the point where they call you basically every day where you're off. If you're off, my days off were, Wednesday and Thursday? They would call, text, and call every Wednesday and Thursday. Mr. Dixon, would you like to come in? Would you like to make some overtime? They feel incentive enough to keep you satisfied. It's not. Doing what we were doing with the wheelchairs and the bodily fluids that you had to sometimes deal with, that job should have paid at least $2 to $3 more than it was per hour. But They have no incentive to give us that kind of money. I mean, we were literally making minimum wage. And if you live in the Midwest, Chicago, you know what the minimum wage is here. You know exactly what it is. I don't need to tell you. And we're driving. We're responsible for securing passengers in a vehicle. We're responsible for assisting passengers, assisting passengers with wheelchairs, with walkers, whatever was needed, with oxygen. You had to do all of that stuff. And yet we're making minimum wage. And then they wonder why guys get that CDL and then head for the door. Because you can take that CDL and go to work pretty much anywhere and make $5, $10 more an hour working for somebody else. But they don't think about that. Why let your good drivers just leave? Because you don't want to pay more than what the minimum wage in the city is. See what I'm saying? There's no incentive for them to give us more money because they've got a surplus of drivers that they're hiring every week. Once a month, there's a new class. And there might be 30 or 40 new drivers in each class. So if 20 to 25 guys quit every month, they're still ahead. But to run a company that way, it's just the epitome of bad management. But as long as they're making money, they don't care. That's the problem. I think Uber is falling into that same trap. As long as we're making money, we don't really care. If we have drivers fall off, if they quit and go to work for somebody else, if they, just quit and go do something else. That's a bad way to do business. I'm not saying you need to bribe people, but those incentives, they did what they were supposed to do. They incentivized the drivers to stay out until you made that money. There have been plenty of times I had been tired, sleepy, hungry, but I was 1 or 2 rides away from meeting that incentive. I stayed out. That was money in my pocket. That was money in Uber's pocket. Without the incentive, I make the bare amount of money that I need to survive. Pay my bills, my rent, everything else. And once I make that, I call it quits for the day. I turn the app off. I go home. I'm not going to do anything more because there's no incentive to do anything more. Hang on for a second. Okay. See, these are what I was talking about. You can get them in like the big bags at Walgreens. Probably get them at CVS too. Probably Target, Walmart. But they're little candy like lozenges, I guess Lawson's, whatever the hell, however the hell you pronounce it. But they're supposed to help you with coughing. I don't know how good they are. I mean, I know how good they taste, but I don't know how good they are at stopping coughing. But like I said, this is the only thing I have to go through as far as a cold-like symptom. I'll take it. Carton. That's a weird license plate. Oh well. Anyway, that's just my rant. I don't know the people running Uber. I'll probably never meet them. That's fine with me. As long as I can keep making money on the platform, that's okay. I don't need to meet them. I don't need to know their mindset. They started this company to make money. But how much is enough? You know? How much can you have until until you get to a point where you say, okay, I have personally made enough. You know? Because I was talking to a couple of other drivers. Because there's a couple of guys that live in my building who drive for Uber, and they do passengers. They don't do deliveries. And one of the things that we were talking about is Uber sustainable? Lyft. In other words, those 1099 jobs that are right now kind of exploding onto the scene, TaskRabbit, Postmates, DoorDash, things like that. Are they sustainable? Will eventually the economy turn back to the way it used to be, where we worked in office buildings or factories or whatever? My personal opinion, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't think Uber is sustainable. I don't think Uber is going to be like a cab company. You know, like here in Chicago, we got Yellow Cab. I don't think Uber is going to be around like that. I don't think in 50 years people are going to be whipping out their apps or using holograms or whatever the hell we're going to be using in 50 years to call them Uber. I don't think Uber is going to be around. And if it is, it's going to be very, very niche market. Because I think it will reach the saturation point. I think it will reach the point because right now you got a lot of people doing Uber because they heard how much money you can make. And then they get in and they realize how much work it takes. Like everybody that asked me, look, it's not like it was last year. It's not like it was 2 years ago. It's not. You're not going to make $150, $200 in 4 hours. You're just not. If you live in a city where you're making $150 to $200 in just 4 hours of work doing Uber, dude, congratulations. Stick with it. But 99.99% of the rest of us, impossible. It's damn near impossible to make $200 in one day doing Uber. I mean, you literally have to run from 7 a.m. to about 11 p.m. to make that kind of money. I mean, if you're willing to do it, you can make that money. But 4 hours? No. 6 hours? No. Not even in 8. Because, once again, the surges are gone, or to the point where they're pretty much the same thing as the quote-unquote guaranteed boost. What's going to happen when people realize that they've been hoodwinked? They're using their personal vehicles. There's a lot of security vehicles be rolling around here. It's not like we're a campus area. And this guy's flying. Maybe he's fucking somebody living in the hood. Or maybe he lives in the hood and he's just coming home for lunch. Keep this between yourself. But when I was a field supervisor, I used to do that. Yes, I did. I would arrange my schedule. I'm not going to even lie to you. I would make sure I hit every spot that I needed to hit that day and every spot that I needed to hit that week. But every day, I had lunch at home or dinner every day. Yes, I did. I drove that company car, parked it right in front of the house every single day. Every day. Got out, went in the house, had a big ass plate or whatever, went back to work. There's no policy that says you can't do that. No company law that says you can't go home for lunch. If it fits in your schedule and you don't want to go to a restaurant, where else are you going to eat? Company had a policy. You cannot eat in the vehicle. So if you can't eat in the vehicle and you don't want to pay restaurant prices every single day, where else are you going to go for lunch? You're going to go home. Now, the company wasn't happy that I was going home every single day. But what they didn't know didn't hurt them. I'm sure if they knew I was going home every single day, there would have been some sort of discussion about that. Because when you're at home, you tend to take a little bit longer with your lunch. I'm just saying. All I do know is that things continue to run smoothly on my shift. Okay? Despite the fact that I went home for lunch, everything continued to run smoothly. My Nextel was always on, and the pager that we had, God, how primitive we were. A Nextel and a pager, right? I used to hear that Nextel chirp in my dream, in my sleep. I got so sick and tired of that chirp. I hated that chirp. I really did. Because it was never anything good. Whenever that chirp would go, something was wrong. Something was wrong somewhere. And it was up to me to go fix it. I wouldn't even turn it on until my shift started. Our operations manager got angry at me one day. You're supposed to keep it on at all times. It is on. It was. It was sitting on the charger. It was on. The volume was just way, way down to the point where I couldn't hear it. And I didn't turn it up until my shift started. Whatever was happening with the company, I didn't care. As long as it wasn't happening on my shift. And these guys, they wanted you to sell out. You had to go out there and take one in the neck for the team. They didn't understand. Because management had to keep their Nextels on all day, all night, every day. And Nextel was national. So when they went on vacation, they had to take the freaking Nextels with them. Just so that they could be reached by the big boss if he had any questions. BS. But that's another story for another day. My thoughts on whether or not Uber and Lyft and some of the other, online platforms that we're, enjoying now, will they survive? I don't think so. Because I think we're going to reach a point where drivers are going to start to feel hoodwinked. They're going to start to feel like they were fooled. They were tricked. They're going to realize this is like any other job. The harder you work, the more money you make. Just driving around for 4 hours when you're off duty or off work, it's not going to put the kind of money in your pocket that you thought. And that's when you're going to start to see drivers delete those apps from their phones. And they're going to start through word of mouth. The greatest advertisement ever. Our big ass mouths. That's why Uber has this referral bonus for drivers. Even if you recommend someone start to, use the Uber Eats app, you get paid. What's going to happen when drivers who used to work for Uber start talking, and the guys that are currently working for Uber start talking about how hard they're working, how disappointed they are with the company? And then the drivers that are already on the platform stop coming onto the platform. I'm not trying to tell Uber how to run their business. I'm just saying, you're not the first company in the world to reinvent the wheel. You offered a taxi service where absolutely no responsibility fell onto your shoulders. You didn't have to pay for the fleet. You didn't have to pay for gas. You didn't have to pay for insurance. You got people out here using their own personal vehicles. And you getting 20 to 30% of the take. It's like an old saloon dealer. It's like the guy that used to own the old saloon. He gets 20% of the take on all the gambling, all the prostitutes. That's Uber. They get they cut. But guess what? There's a reason why cab companies survive. They treat their drivers halfway decent. I'm just saying. 5 years from now, we'll know whether or not I'm right. I don't think Uber is going to go extinct. I think it's going to be like MySpace or High Five. Damn, High Five. It's going to be like that. It's going to exist. It just won't be the big game that it is now. It's like those internet companies that come out of nowhere and they make internet billionaires like Mark Cuban and guys like that. And then the bubble burst. And almost every single one of those companies keep your eyes open. Be ready to move on to the next thing. Be flexible. All right, folks. I'm going to take this thing and hopefully it'll work before the end of the day. I got a few things I need to pick up. Take over to the house. I'm trying to decorate it. It ain't easy. Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, the house that I've been living in for the last 6.5 years, I'm no longer living there. That is a story unto itself as well. Does it have anything to do with the ex? No. But that's just another part of my life that has changed. Makiko and I are not together anymore. I'll make a video about that in the future. And I'm no longer living in the house that I used to live in. I have an apartment. And even though it's a nice apartment, don't get me wrong, it is a huge, huge fucking come down from having a townhouse to an apartment. It's a come down. Even though with a townhouse, you have no front yard, no backyard, no garage. It was 3 layers. Basement, first floor, second floor. 2 bathrooms, 3 bed. Now I have an apartment. It's an adjustment, but I am adjusting. All right, I'm done babbling, at least on this video. There'll be more babbling to come. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I will take this thing and I'll get with you guys later. Peace.